Dear students, in this unit we will talk about the life cycle of angiosperms. As you are aware that angiosperms are the flowering plants and they have been historically divided into two groups. One group is known as monocotyledons or monocots, and the other group is known as dicotyledons or dicots. These diversification is based on special aspects which will be covered in the later lectures. In simple terms, monocotyledons are those angiospermic flowering plants which have one leaf coming out of their seed or their embryo, while dicotyledons, they normally give rise to two leaves when the embryo develops into a plant. So these are the differences, basic differences in the monocots and dicot angiospermic flowering plants. Now, in life cycle of angiosperms, the sporophyte phase is the main phase of angiospermic life cycles. The life cycle of angiosperm is highly refined version of alternation of generation, which are common in all plants. So it means that angiosperms also exhibit alternation of generation, which means sporophyte give rise to gametophytes, and then gametophyte ultimately give rise to sporophytes and complete the life cycle of angiosperms. Now, when we talk about the life cycle, just like gymnosperms, the angiosperms are heterosporous, which means that both male as well as female gametes are produced on the same plant. Just like the example, very specialized structure known as flower of angiosperms, it contains both male as well as female parts, which will produce, the male part is known as stamen, and it is comprised of anther as well as filament. Now, inside the anther, there are microsporangia which give rise to male gametophytes or pollen grains, while the female part, which is known as ovary, it contains ovules or the female gametes, which they are present inside the female gametophytes. Angiosperm life cycle begins with the formation of a mature flower on the sporophyte plants, which culminates in a germinating seed. Now, how the process starts: anthers which contain microsporangia, those microsporangia, they contain microspore mother cells which produce microspore as a result of meiosis. You can see here, this is the male structure, and here a lot of microsporangia which contains microspore mother cells, they undergo meiosis and they give rise to pollen grains, which are microscopic, very tiny structures. They contain the male gamete. Now, microspore form the pollen grains, and these pollen grains are actually the male gametophytes. Now, in the ovule of megaspore, mother cells produce 4 megaspore with the process of meiosis in the female part of the plant or the flower as well. The pollen is released from the anther and carried to the sticky stigma of the female reproductive organ or the carpel. You can see here at the tip of the stigma, we can see some anthers, they stick to that part. These pollen grains germinate and they become mature male gametophytes. Now, after they move inside the ovary, they fertilize with the ovules which are present inside, and they ultimately give rise to the zygotes. That zygotes develop into an embryo which is packaged with food and becomes seed. When seed germinates upon the favorable conditions, the embryo develops into a mature sporophyte. So mature tree is actually a sporophyte phase in the life cycle of angiosperms.